Hey there fellow hobbyists, and welcome back to the channel. I'm NFI Hammer, and today we're diving headfirst into the wonderful world of miniature painting. Now I know what you might be thinking, airbrushes, aren't they only for the pros? Well, not necessarily. Today I'm going to show you why airbrushes are not only for the experts, but can absolutely be a game changer for beginners like me. As a relative newcomer to this incredible hobby, I've been on a journey to improve my painting skills. And along the way, I've discovered that using an airbrush can make a massive difference in your results. And believe it or not, can be actually pretty beginner friendly. In this video, we're going to explore why you should consider adding an airbrush to your arsenal, what equipment you'll need, how to set it up, but most importantly, how to use it effectively to enhance your miniatures. Whether you're starting out or looking to level up your painting game, stick around because I've got some tips, tricks, and techniques that I've discovered to get the most out of your airbrush. By the end of the video, you'll know if you're ready to start airbrushing, and if so, be well on your way to becoming a pro. Let's talk about why you should consider using an airbrush for your Warhammer 40k miniatures or any other type of miniature painting that you're doing. It's a question that I had just a few weeks ago, and what I'm just trying to figure out myself. First and foremost, let's just look at the elephant in the room. The quality of the paint job. This miniature has been airbrushed, and look at how smooth and even the base coat looks. Well, that was due to the magic of an airbrush. Airbrushes are amazing at achieving that flawless, consistent base coat of miniatures. No more streaks, no more brush marks, no clumpy paint, just a clean canvas ready for you to work your magic on. If you do a comparison of this versus painted minis, you can see that the brush strokes and uneven coverage, but on the airbrush side, it's just a night and day difference between the two. But it's not all about base coats. It can open up a world of possibility when it comes to shading and highlighting. You can create smooth gradients, blend colors, and achieve effects that are really hard to replicate with traditional brushes alone. Here, I'm a little bit out of my depth as a beginner, so I'm not going to try and explain, all those techniques because I don't know them either myself. I did kind of accidentally stumble on a couple of these as I was playing around, but definitely a lot more area to grow. One other thing is the speed, is that when you're painting a whole army, it can take a huge amount of time, and time is very precious. I've got a big pile of shame growing. So airbrushes are incredibly effective and efficient. They can cover large areas quickly, so you can finish your projects in less time without sacrificing any quality. Well, remember when I was talking about, consistency? Well, that's a big deal when you're painting an army. If you want all your models to look exactly the same, then airbrushing kind of can help with this because it gives that consistent and overall visual appeal of your army. So, in summary, before we get into it, airbrushes offer you smoother, faster, and more consistent results. And guess what? It's not just for the pros. Beginners like you and me can really benefit from this tool just as much, if not even more. So step one is you'll need an airbrush. There are various types and models out there, but as a beginner, I recommend starting with a good, reliable, and easy to maintain airbrush. Look for airbrushes that are known for their user friendliness. For me, my wife was kind enough to buy me this one for my birthday. It's a Traderight airbrush kit from Harvey Norman. And she knew that having an expensive new toy would actually cripple my anxiety and fear that I would break it. And so this is actually one of the cheapest models. It costs only $61 dues, or 39 real US dollars. Opening it up, the first thing that I was really disappointed with this model is that it didn't come with any sort of manual, which is just crazy to me. you know, even like a QR code for a PDF, but there's just absolutely nothing in the box. But other than that, it's pretty much what you would expect at this price point. It comes with 3 different cups, but I really have no idea if, you know, one is better than the other. It charges via a USB cable, and it takes about 60 minutes to charge, and that charge lasts for anywhere between 30 to 45 minutes, which is pretty good because you can turn it on and off. There's a really easy to reach button. So you can actually stretch that time out to be a lot longer if you turn it off when you're not using it. It did take me a little while to figure out that the actual USB color charger changes color when it's charged or needing to be charged. It actually came pre-assembled, so there really wasn't much to do. Just make sure you screw the nozzle on and screw a cup on. Make sure that things are kind of snug, but don't like over tighten it. Moving on to paints, not all paints are suitable for airbrushing straight out of the can. You can invest in specific paints for airbrush use. These paints are typically thinner and flow better through the airbrush, giving you smoother results. But as a beginner, I don't want to go and buy another set of paints. I already have too many regular paints as it is, and I'm always buying more, so I don't really want to add another layer of airbrush paints into the mix. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to attempt to thin my regular Games Workshop Citadel paints and thin them to the right consistency. And this process is crucial for airbrushing because these paints are not formulated with that use in mind. To do this, I'm using Liam, not sure if I'm pronouncing that right, medium paint from Games Workshop, and I'm mixing it with a metallic Leadbelcher paint that I use a lot in my Necron army. I was kind of aiming for the consistency of skim milk, which is not too thick, not too thin, but I kind of went too runny on purpose because I really didn't want anything clumping it up and breaking up my very first time. And ideally test it out on a scrap surface first. I didn't do that, I just YOLO'd and went straight onto the model. And one thing you can't see here is, you know, safety first, folks. You know, make sure to wear a mask or anything. You don't have to necessarily because it's not like an aerosol, but when I did start doing this, my air purifier started, you know, sending alarm bells. So one thing you might want to consider is just wearing like an N95 mask or some other equipment just to keep your lungs clear. So I was really just surprised that it all just kind of started working straight away. I thought I was going to have to, I don't know, go watch some more YouTube videos or whatever, but it's actually really quite intuitive for beginners to just start painting. You can see here it's kind of coming out not very strong. It's very small area of effect, and at first I thought that was kind of just that the model that I had maybe there wasn't very strong pressure because it was so cheap, but by loosening the dial at the end of the model it actually allows a lot more paint to come out, and so yeah, I do have that control over the amount of paint that you want to come out at any given time. So if you're doing a very small targeted area, you can tighten it up, or if you're doing a big broad surface like I'm doing here, you can loosen it up. Obviously you'll run out of paint quickly if you use more, but yeah, the actual economy of the paint is one of the things that really surprised me about the Airbrush. So you can see in the beginning I just kind of put 1 drop of Leadbelcher in and some medium to dilute it, and that lasted me, you know, quite a lot, way more than if I had just been painting it on with a brush. So one of the advantages of the airbrush I've found so far in my short time using it is just that it gives you such good economies out of your paint. It just makes it stretch really, really, really far, as opposed to just painting it on. I'd get through like a quarter of a can or something crazy. And I've also got the chimney here that I'm also just dry brushing separately, and I'll glue them on, as well as a bit of pipe. So overall the metallic was quite a success. it kind of flowed very easily from the can. I did experiment with the different cups. I found the smaller one was a little bit better because I think it forced the paint to all pool at the bottom. I even had a bit of ruins as well, so I thought I'd just I didn't want to waste the silver paint, so I was just trying to find anything that I could spray it on. So this is what it kind of looked like as the finished product from the first time, and you can see that all the detail from the Games Workshop miniatures have really maintained. Sometimes with my paint I'll lose a lot of detail just because the paint's a bit thick, but it provides such a very thin coverage that it preserves all of the details that the models are known for. So I was really happy with how it turned out. Even these little guns that goes on crates came out really well as well as the terrain pipes. I did a video of this one using a spray tin of silver, so you can check that out if you're interested in. And yeah, this is the ruins as well. So yeah, pretty happy with how it all came out with the Leadbelcher. It definitely will save me a lot of time if I'm painting up a lot of Necrons and I need that metallic look to them. But this was using a white primer, so I thought, what would happen if I do the Leadbelcher spray on a model that's being primed with a black primer? So this is the black primer here. I just used the Rust-Oleum $17 redo can, and this is actually part of the Royal Court. I've got a video about how you can get these models for less than $5. So I'm just trying out the Leadbelcher spray, exactly the same formula, it's the same paint from before, and I just thought I'd try it on this model. And I noticed that, I don't know if it's because the model was smaller or it's the black base, but it was quite easy to get good coverage. So we'll go and show that later. But I wanted to try what a non-metallic paint kind of looked like. So I thought, why don't I try mixing paints as well, which I'm not very good at, and use some Macragge blue, some moot green, and some more medium. And I'll mix these together and see what color comes out, because I didn't really want to use the Macragge blue because I use that quite a bit for ultramarines and stuff like that, and I use the moot green a lot for my Necrons, for the Gore's energy, and I wanted to kind of experiment with a new color, and by mixing these two I was kind of imagining that it will come out as an aquamarine color. I'm using quite a lot of paint in this one. I'm using about 2 drops each, and it actually probably was too much in a way. I had heaps left over. So again, kind of maybe conserve your paint, go slow rather than overdoing it. And another tip is that this container that I'm mixing it in is quite large, and the problem with that is that the surface area of this is large, obviously, and so therefore you actually lose a lot of paint just covering the base of the container. So I think I need to invest in some smaller mixing containers so that I don't kind of waste a lot of paint covering the bottom. The color here wasn't really the color I was going for. I really wanted a little bit more blue. This is quite more like a camouflage green, which almost like a warpstone green, which I already have that paint already, so I could have just used that directly rather than being fancy and trying to mix 2 paints together. But there is kind of a little bit of quality to it that's kind of unique. I'm also using a pencil here, to the back of a pencil, to mix the paint, so that's probably not the most effective use of it. And so I've got the consistency down to what I said before is kind of like a skim milk kind of quality. It's almost water, but it just helps pouring it in. And you can see there it's kind of half filled, maybe a third filled, that black cup at the top there. And you can also attach this lid to it so it doesn't accidentally spill out. So this is another piece of terrain that I've not got around to. It's been in my pile of shame, and it's one of these army crates from the Imperium. And so I thought it'd be really good to get this painted, I had just cleaned it up to get rid of the Leadbelcher, and you can see that initially a lot of water came out and it's created quite a wet mess. So again, as I said before, a good tip that I need to commit to memory is to, you know, try it out on a piece of paper. Don't just go directly onto the model and start spraying, just to make sure if there is any kind of residue or extra moisture that it doesn't ruin the model. So it did kind of create a bit of a ugliness on that section. I did kind of go over it a few times. So here I've got some blue because I was trying to add the aqua color, and I'm just kind of spraying that in. And this is where I kind of accidentally discovered that it's really good with airbrushing, is like mixing two different colors together and creating like layers and different textures and stuff like that. I also didn't want to waste any paint, so I did these little ammo boxes as well. So as a beginner, I can see that there's probably like a really high ceiling on these skills, and it's just going to take time to develop and learn them. These look very green in this light because it's actually on a blue table, a ping pong table here. But you can see that the coverage is really good on these, and it's like done a really good job in a very short amount of time. So looking at how they've all kind of come together, now that I've finished painting a couple of different pieces, the Leadbelcher on this Manufactorium reactor has done a really good job. As I mentioned before in my other terrain video, the silver looked really cheap and plasticky. This looks really professional and very well done. I really love this Necron Plasmancer. He is my favorite one out of all the airbrushing, and it took the shortest amount of time. So I think doing the black prime paint is really good if you're doing a metallic like this. The army crate, I really liked how the blending of the blue and green together kind of creates a bit more of a dynamic kind of texture to it, rather than just being all one monocolor that you would get from painting. And the silver guns at the top look cool. The pipe is just a pipe, nothing too exciting about that. And again, you know, the chimney, I guess, from the reactor, it looks pretty cool and maintains all those details from before. So yeah, and these are the ammo boxes. Really happy with this as my first ever experiment with airbrushing. So if I can do this, you certainly can. It's one of those things that seem really intimidating, but you're only going to learn by doing. So I recommend to any beginners out there, just, you know, go get a cheap airbrush, start building those skills up. I can see that there's so much more room to improve and grow. If you've made it this far, please consider leaving a like or a subscribe. It really helps the channel out. And until next time, see you later.